This presentation is a follow-up to our presentation earlier in the year about the overall concept of the Research Park app. So there are some things that we know now that we have defined since that presentation. We know that we're going to be creating these three online courses in Moodle, and we know that the simulation app is going to communicate to the Moodle from its own environment by way of a technology called LTI, Learning Tools Interoperability. So that's a function that's already deployed and in use with the current version of Moodle, and we're taking advantage of that. So again, our overall design is unchanged. We have the metaphor of this place, the research park, and we begin each session as a learner by arriving in the reception lobby, and we go from there into our respective centers, whether it's biotechnology, chemistry, manufacturing, ICT, and then the activities that we do as our scaffold challenges that lead to a culminating design challenge are all tied to the rest of the course materials in the Moodle and can include a wide variety of different kinds of media and interactives in each of these activities: text, images, videos, animations, interactives, assessments, and some or all of the above. So what we're looking at right now is we're developing a prototype using the biotechnology's insulin challenge as our first activity 1, module A, to get a sense of how this will work. Here's a very simplified diagram of the architecture for LTI. So what this allows the sim to do is to receive the login information directly from the Moodle. So when the teacher or the learner logs into the Moodle, all of that information that's known about them, their user information, the Moodle that they're in, the course that they're in, the particular activity that they happen to have logged into, all of that information then is immediately provided, completely transparent to the teacher or learner. So when they log into the Moodle and go into the sim, they don't have to do anything else to log in. The Moodle does that automatically by way of the LTI. So in this technology, the way that it's phrased is that the Moodle is the consumer of the product, which is the sim, which has its own enterprise system. So the sim has its own database, the sim has its own PHP communication setup, and it's going to be communicating data and information back to the Moodle. So really that's all the learners and the teachers see is the Moodle. They use the sim, they consume the sim as consumers, and the sim is a producer which sends information back to the consumers in the Moodle. So there's a lot of benefits from this architecture that we're immediately taking advantage of. So when we're thinking about the control of the sim as a interactive media for the learners to use in class and out of class, then all of this is happening within the context of the Moodle for the teacher. So the teacher doesn't have to think about, oh, I have to use this system and I have to use that system. They just see one system, which is already familiar to many of them, which is Moodle. And there are going to be all of the data types that we would expect to have from an activity in Moodle, as well as we'll have some other data types that we'll be able to send back to the Moodle by way of LTI from the system of the sim.
Starting sequence for
and then the learner has a
for
console in effect, which is also Moodle, so they can make some changes to their settings in the sim when they're in there, but otherwise everything that they're using in order to monitor their progress and understand their progress in the sim are the same things that they use to monitor their progress with the other kinds of learning activities and quizzes and lessons and journals and all the other things that are to be found in the Moodle. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to take a look at a very simple example that we have that demonstrates how this connectivity works to connect one system to the other. So in our very simple example here in our Moodle, we're looking at the main page in Moodle as if we had just logged in. So I've just logged in as myself, and I happen to be a teacher. That's my role, so that gives me some abilities to do and see some things that the learner can't. For instance, I'm going to turn on editing, for example. And I have my activity that I can do right here, which is, I called this test Research Park App Login Test. So if I wanted to, I could have, let's say that my course has 17 different topics, which are either organized topically or by the week, or however they're organized. And I could have a different, I could have one or many different activities that are going to take advantage of that sim just by adding the activity. So I'm going to go to the activity and I'm going to add an external tool, activity, just like I could add an assignment where I have to upload something, or some kind of a lesson that I have to do, or a quiz. In this case, it's called an external tool. And then when I do, I have a lot of parameters that I have to set up, which is what we're going to do. So we're going to provide all these parameters that tell this external tool how it's going to communicate with the sim. And once that's in place, then what we'll have is we'll have one that looks like this. We'll look at this example. So I can have all of the information that I would have in any other activity in terms of informing the student what this is before they launch it. And I have some parameters. So right now I'm asking this external tool to log into my sim prototype. So that exists on a completely different server, has nothing to do with this Moodle, and it's using its own PHP MySQL database. So now I'm going to see if it will connect, and if it will, what it knows by way of that connection. So let's say that this was my very first thing that I'm supposed to do as a learner. I come into the Moodle, I maybe do some content, and I have maybe some a short quiz that I do, some kinds of activities, and then I'm supposed to finish my work for the day or the week by going to this login test. Now all I have to do is just click on it. And when I do click on it, then it's going to immediately open up the connection that it made with the sim. So I can see that what it's telling me, and this isn't what normally the learner or the teacher would see, I just have this here as an example so that you can see that this is information that has been passed from the Moodle over to the sim. So it knows who the person is that has logged in, and it knows where they're doing it from. It knows all the information about them, about their profile. It also knows information about what activity they're using, so you can place this, so you could have this take you to different parts of the sim if you wanted to. So that handshake is completely in place and we're ready to go. So I can just click on this link and launch the sim, and the sim is going to open up. It's going to take a minute to download. This particular prototype is still pretty large. And once it's opened, then I'm going to arrive in my 3D space. And now I have full control of my sim. So I've been logged in. Everything that I do now while I'm in here is saved in the Sims system, which is also communicated back to the Moodle. So I can do some things initially, like we have a video that we can watch. I watched that by left-clicking on it, by the way. I use standard first-person controls, so as all of your students would be very familiar with this, using the arrow keys. Up arrow is forward, down arrow is backward, left arrow is walk sideways to the left, right arrow is walk sideways to the right. So here's up arrow, down arrow, left arrow, right arrow, and then when I want to look around I just move my mouse. So I'm going to come through the doors here. Now I'm going to get over here, and of course it's a very, very early on crude example. This is the Biotechnology Center. It will have a sign. And I'm going to open the door by left-clicking on it. Now the reason that I can open the door and go in here is because the sim knows by way of my login that I am allowed to do this. So then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to interact with this computer, and I'm going to check my mail, and I'm going to get my instructions that I'm supposed to work on for this particular activity. In this case, we're talking about in the initial biosim, we're talking about the insulin challenge, so I'm going to receive the challenge instructions, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to watch this video. Hit Q to stop, and I have some questions that I'm going to need to work through, and just as an example to give you an idea of what the eventually the spaces will all be fully provisioned. So here's an example of a micro lab where we have equipment that we'll be using here in the biotechnology space. So then all of this is just very prototypey first look at the sim and how the controls are going to work. And when we're done, then we're going to save. And when we do, I didn't mean to click out of my window. Then when we do save, we're going to be able to monitor our progress, both as the learner and as the teacher, in the grade report. So we have a Research Park App login test here activity. Of course, it doesn't have any grading information yet. First of all, there aren't any students in this class, but if there were, and anybody had done anything and saved it, then I would see the information that had been saved here. And then the kinds of data that we can save is a very long list of different kinds of data types. So not just grades or numbers, but also almost endless numbers of strings. So we can save badges, achievements. We can save all kinds of different conventions that we decide that we want to create in order to save those in the grade report. So then, in a nutshell, that's how the sim will be integrated with the rest of the information in the Moodle. It'll be completely transparent to both the teachers and the students. They'll just interact with it by way of logging into the Moodle, and they'll be able to do that in class as well as do it at home. So the overall enterprise then, as far as it concerns the teachers and the learners, is completely front-end provided by the Moodle. So class management, assessments, where the students are going to be directed to go to activities and how those activities place them directly into the sim, all of that's set up by us in terms of how the online course is set up, and then everything that we need to be able to provide the teachers and learners with in terms of feedbacks and reporting happens in the Moodle, as does all of the rest of their content. So where we are at this point in terms of our development milestones, we have the basic LTI transactions are set up and running. So we have Moodle sandbox that we're talking to, and we have our PHP MySQL all set up for our sim, and those are communicating with each other. And now we're doing some basic controls testing. The next big milestone is when we all get together on the 27th of July in Denver. Then we're going to begin playtesting in earnest the Biotech Mod A, the completed Mod A, and really get a chance for everybody to get their hands on that and explore all aspects of it. Meanwhile, we'll also be at some point in progression on manufacturing and ICT, so wherever we are with those two, we'll also be looking at those. And then September 3rd or so is when we intend to begin pilot testing. So we want to put this into the hands of learners and teachers and see how it's working for them in terms of an alpha version of it, so that we can get a sense for how well it's operating and what we can do to immediately improve it. So this is a revised benefit summary statement. This is kind of the benefits of LTI layered on top of the original benefits statement from the first concept overview of the app. One is you can use it in and out of the classroom. So you have classroom and informal use. And this is going to be a situated learning experience, so we want to bring that to the fore wherever we can in terms of how the activities are designed. We have the strengthened integration of all of these domains are happening in the same space, so it becomes very familiar and also can become something that can be collateral. So there could be activities that you want to take advantage of in the other domains that you're not teaching, and those are all going to be available. So the teachers will have that flexibility should they want to use them. And we have enhanced usability because we only have one design. So we're only working with one interface type, one set of controls, one environment. Of course, lots of different experiences and completely different content, but we don't have to spend a lot of time working on multiple kinds of interfaces, and since we can focus all of our attention and effort on one, then we'll get much deeper in terms of our progression and refinement. So that is going to increase our usability a great deal. It'll be much deeper, it'll be much richer as a result of that kind of a focus. Again, since the sim lives outboard of the Moodle, we're not constrained. So we can have the media types and activities that we want to do in the sim are totally independent of whatever types may or may not work with other aspects of the Moodle. So that's a really nice set of flexibilities that are created by having our sim exist outside of the Moodle. But we still have the same kind of enterprise control and access that we have with the Moodle system, including all of the feedback systems. So we're not losing any of those feedback or reporting systems. Since we're working with this LTI in Moodle, then we have professional development, at least for the most part, is going to be more easily addressed just because there's so much familiarity with Moodle. We have a single login and ID. So a student logs in from wherever, whenever, and they only need the one login and ID, and that's the one that they use to log into the Moodle. I think one of the aspects of this that's really going to be appreciated a few months down the road is that this is one deployment. So when we update the sim, then that's being updated real time for all courses. So as an example, let's say that there's 3 years from now there are 5,000 teachers using each of the domains. So that means there's 5,000 copies of each of these master courses that are being deployed in any given term. Well, when you have a copy of a course, if you need to make a change to the master, that doesn't change the copy. So if you have to update a link or correct an error, that correction, that update, that's not seen until the next time that the courses are provisioned. So it's a very cumbersome evolution to make changes and to update the course. In this case, the sim is being updated real time because all of the courses are linking out to the one sim. So if we decide that we need to make a change or change a link or update a video or make some kind of correction, that happens immediately, and the next time that someone logs into the sim, they're using the corrected version of it. So that kind of real-time update is very valuable. That's going to become a well-considered feature down the road. And then, of course, we have one build that we're making that we can deploy multiple SKUs, multiple kinds of media export types. So iPad, PC, Mac, web, executables, whatever we need. So there we go. There's LTI, the technology that we're using now to make the sim glued to the rest of the Moodle as an overview.